Welcome to Be Different, the podcast of Equal and Different, Iguales y Diferentes. In today's episode, we'll be speaking with Pawel, Assistant Director of the Cycle School in Warsaw, Poland. Pawel joins us to discuss his recent book review of Single-Sex Schools, A Place to Learn by Cornelius Riordan. Riordan's book takes up the challenge of analyzing the effectiveness of single-sex schools. In doing so, he moves beyond the ideological and political baggage often attached to the topic, offering a thoughtful and well-balanced contribution to the debate. So welcome, Pawel. Thank you for joining us in this podcast, Be Different. As an expert in single-sex education, because you have been working at a single-sex school in Warsaw, in Poland, many years, what were your main takeaways from Cornelius Riordan's book, Single-Sex Schools, A Place to Learn? What can you share with us and with the audience?
Well, hello everybody, and thank you for inviting me for this first to the lecture, because it was you, Felipe, that and I took it voluntarily because I had the privilege to meet personally Professor Riordan.
Oh yeah! Oh really?
Yes.
Okay.
We had a big international congress on single-sex and personal education in Warsaw in 2011, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
And he was one of our keynote speakers.
Wow, that's great.
So we met, and I also made an interview with him. It was very interesting.
Wow.
So this book was interesting also for me. And let me start with the quote from this book. This book is very serious book, but this quote tells about one interesting situation. And Cornelius Riordan writes, "One afternoon, I took a taxi from some law offices in downtown Chicago to the airport. In preparation for opening the first public girls' school in Chicago, a law firm had been retained. This is very interesting. Why? And they brought me out for the day to work over the topic just in the case the school had to go to court." Interesting. At that time, the opening of single-sex school was, and still is, the book is from 2016, a ripe occasion for opponents of single-sex schools to challenge the legal right of the school even before it opened.
Wow. Yeah.
There is some answers to our questions.
Of single-sex schools nowadays, no? That can be really helpful.
Yes, you must know that Chicago is the biggest Polish town in the world.
Oh, really?
Because the biggest emigration from Poland is going to Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
So there are a lot of Poles.
Okay,
And so Riordan writes, "My Polish Catholic cab driver," as he explained to me later, asked what I was doing in Chicago. I demurred a bit because I thought that single-sex schools would not be of interest to him, but I was very wrong. And that is very interesting. He persisted, common among Chicago cab drivers, and so I explained that I had spent the entire afternoon describing and explaining the favorable evidence on single-sex schools to the group of attorneys.
Wow.
He said, "I bet they paid you to tell them what was obvious." And why I work night and day. And then he went on to tell me that his sister was depending in part on him to help her pay the tuition to keep her daughter and son in single-sex Catholic schools in Chicago.
Wow.
To him, the value, the explanations, and the evidence were obvious, and he was happy that he was part of providing his niece and nephew a good education.
Wow.
So I'm sorry for this a little bit long quote.
No, but
I think that it opens our topic, and you asked me the main takeaways.
Yeah, the main ideas.
Main ideas. I could share some. There are many more. Single-sex schools create different culture than co-education schools. That's what he says here. I don't say it's all already my opinion, because I frankly tell you that I know co-education schools only from my own school.
Yeah.
I didn't work in co-education school, so I don't consider myself expert on this. Second, compared to students in the co-educational schools, students in elementary and middle single-sex schools exhibited, attention, a greater sense of community. The first, interacted more positively with one another, showed greater respect for their teachers. That is interesting.
That's really interesting, yeah.
And were less likely, attention, to initiate class disruptions.
Wow. Yeah.
They demonstrated more positive student role modeling than students in the co-education comparison schools. So, this is the second takeout. There are some more. Single-sex schools, their environment is more conducive to learning than mixed-sex schools, especially, that is interesting, for minorities. So they somehow they are better prepared to work. We can touch this subject later on.
Yeah.
Work with disadvantaged young people.
Yeah.
And another one, in co-education schools, males and females are likely to experience some sex bias from teachers, counselors, and fellow students also. Sex bias in single-sex schools is minimal, says Riordan. Of course, it is based on his research. And the last one, I think, a choice of single-sex education is a pro-academic choice. A choice of mixed-sex education is a pro-adolescent subculture choice.
That's interesting, yeah.
That is very interesting, because it shows that not necessarily co-educational schools are good in. I don't want to tell they are very good co-educational schools.
Yes,
okay?
of course. Yeah.
That is right. But what he says is that in single-sex schools there is a different, let's say, atmosphere. The atmosphere of learning, more of learning than of making a subculture.
Yeah. So they are focused on learning, focused on the
Yes.
academic, but not only academic, also an education that takes into account the different paces, the different rhythms of boys and girls. So it's not only learning from academic point of view, but also from a emotional and psychological.
Yes. If we say learning, we mean, at least in Poland, to acquire some new material.
Yeah.
But to learn, educare,
Yeah.
to educate, it's like shaping a person.
Yeah.
Well, the person must learn all the time. You must learn virtues also. You must learn how to be a good friend of someone.
Yeah.
And what is very interesting, I cannot. I can't abstain of this reflection that one of Polish most renowned pedagogists says that, for instance, to learn how to be a friend, how to be loyal,
Yes.
is much easier in single-sex schools.
Oh yeah, he relates to single-sex education. Yes. So yes. The idea of how to become a better friend.
Yes.
Why?
So, why? Because I can learn this word learn, to learn. I can learn how to be a friend and how to be loyal first to be a friend of my colleague, of a boy in a boys' school or of a girl. But I have this ability of being loyal, and when I grow up and when I enter the society, I have this ability. And then when I meet a girl, or the girl meets a boy, and they want to form a family, to become a couple, so they have this ability to be loyal. They know what this means. They have this inner ability. It doesn't depend on who you are or how do you behave. I'll be loyal if you behave good. No, I'll be loyal because I've learned to be loyal.
So, and also you say that is something, for instance, loyalty or other emotional skill or virtues in relation with friendship are things that are learned for example, in a single-sex school, and then that learning will have an impact, an influence on this person when he will interact with other people out of the school, outside the school. No?
Yes.
Oh, that's really interesting. That's something also in relation with the idea of trying to help each student to develop his own personality, and then with that, when he or she is very confident with that or her personality, he's able or she's able to interact with other people.
Because it's the case of maturity. Well, we learn to be mature. And even in Polish, I don't know if you know that, I don't know how does it look like in America or in Spain. I think but we have an exam. When you finish high school, we have an exam, and we call this exam matura in Polish. So you're mature. So you're mature to be because you are grown up. You have something in your mind. You can continue with your studies, higher studies. So it is matura, to be mature. And for Riordan, a single-sex school is the best place to mature, to be really grown up.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much for these 5-6 takeaways that you gave us. Another question that I have here is, Riordan argues that the debate over single-sex education has become more ideological than scientific. Do you agree with this assessment? What factors do you think contribute to this polarization?
I sure do. Yes. Yes. Well, the first thing is political correctness. And because we must look at facts, not ideology. And we must look at data, not opinions. It's different. And coeducation today is politically correct because it is, Riordan says, inclusive of both genders. And single-sex schools, single-sex education is incorrect. It's incorrect because boys and girls attend separate schools. And it is something that it's like a dogma. It's not verified.
Yeah. It lacks the scientific base to justify that.
And what is very interesting that he points out in this book, I didn't know that, but now I think it's quite reasonable that why coeducation started. It's not because of equality reasons, not at all. In the United States, it started because boys and girls went to the same public school, and it was cheaper to have them together. It was US dollars that counted, and not any experience. So it started with money. It started because it is cheaper, and then the ideology came to it.
Yeah, but it was more practical for practical reasons So the change or the transition between single-sex to co-ed in many cases has been because of pragmatical or economic reasons more than pedagogical reasons, no?
Yes. And until a certain time, the coeducation, as far as I know, the coeducation, single-sex schools in public schools in America, in the United States, was forbidden.
Yeah.
It was not allowed. Yeah. It was, I think, until 2001, 2002, something like this.
That's it.
There was a new law, No Child Left Behind Act, I think.
Yes, that's it.
That gave that possibility to start single-sex schools, and it's maybe we'll be talking about this, but it started to flourish. And the public single-sex schools,
the book. Thank you very much, Pawel. The topic about public single-sex schools is a really interesting topic, and Riordan talks about that. But now I'm going to ask you another question. That is, the book suggests that research on single-sex schooling is still in its early stages due to political opposition. Based on your experience, what challenges do researchers and educators face in this field?
Well, I must say that first, I work in single-sex schools, but as far as I know, it's the only single-sex school in Warsaw, and maybe and really a single-sex schools in Poland today. So we didn't experience such a strong opposition. I would say we experienced some interest, like in zoo. You go and you see some exotic
animal, no?
Animal, something like that. But I quote Riordan, who says that political culture, I think he speaks about United States, of course, and maybe some other countries, that this political culture reinforces the taken for granted character of coeducation. That it must be like this, and that's all.
Yeah.
But there is one more thing, and I see it when I talk to parents that are coming to our school. They are very interested in our school, but some of them, they ask questions. Well, it's strange. There's only boys and only male teachers. It is strange. So why? This is interesting, and Riordan says this. There is still a very strong conviction that schools reflecting the variety of society exemplify what is best about democratic societies. So it's this mindset that tells school is a preparation to society. Mm-hmm. And I think that from my experience, school is not preparation for the society. The family is the preparation for the society.
Yeah.
Because as we know, the development of culture, you had families, then you had tribes, yes, and then from tribes there were some states, yes, and so this is the right line. And school is something that happened in a certain moment of history, and it's natural. School is not natural.
Yeah.
It's not natural.
Yeah, it's an institution created, but it's family. Yes. You say you maintain that it's family is the place where education and really the preparation mainly for society happens, no? Yeah,
and Riordan argues that coeducation is viewed now as a major milestone in the pursuit of gender equality. So if they are in the same place, they are equal. And we know it's not true. that, for instance, in China, they are all dressed equally.
Yes.
And but equal, I tell you, as I remember communist era in Poland, and there were a lot of talk about equality, but there were equals and equals.
Yeah, different types of equals, no?
Like at George Orwell, 1984.
Yeah.
So equal. In my opinion, now I say my personal opinion, of course, based also on this book. But what does it mean equal? Equal means corresponding to your specific possibilities. That equal means you are respected as a person. And that is a challenge to change this mindset of people, of parents also, who mostly do not know from their own experience, as myself, the single-sex school. But we know that there are many examples from everyday life that confirm that there is a deep sense of single-sex school, but we can talk about it.
Yeah, thank you, Pawel. Very interesting, that idea of equality. What's equality? If maybe there's a formal equality that says, well, you are equal if you dress the same way as you were saying. Well, that's not real equality. That's a really interesting point. So I have another question that is, Riordan acknowledges that measuring educational outcomes is inherently complex. From your perspective, what are the key methodological difficulties in studying the effects of single-sex education?
Well, there are very few single-sex schools in the world.
Yeah, that's true. That's a disadvantage.
Today we don't have, parents, they don't have choice really between co-ed and single-sex schools because the latter does not exist in most communities. That is right. So the first thing is that there is quite a few schools to compare with the co-educational schools, but the fact is that the results of single-sex schools are better. That we must admit. And Riordan, he's a very honest scientific man, because he says that we cannot tell whether the good results of students in single-sex schools come from the fact that they are in such a school. There is also an impact of family, of parents, and social environment. But it is interesting, he says, that in South Korea, about 50% of the schools are single-sex, and South Korea is a top performer in virtually all international comparisons, IAPSA.
Well, yeah.
So this is really very complex, and I think that the lack of data, but also maybe the lack of scientific persons who would be interested in deepening this area, because we are focused more in education and methods, on very particular methods, how to share the knowledge, but we are not so much interested in person. What is needed for the person?
Yeah. I see your point. Yeah.
So I think that there is also other obstacle, so that in research, and this kind of educational research, the person as a person is not in the center. More methods, it's the mindset. So one is objective, that are very few single-sex schools to compare and to really make good data. And the second one is this mindset, because this is the mindset of more than 100 years,
Yeah, it's difficult to change, and also there are, as you were saying, there's a lack of scientists that are devoted to study single sex or co-ed. So in Riordan, in chapters 4, 5, and 6, Riordan reviews what he considers the best available studies on this topic.
Yes.
No? Which findings did you find most compelling in support of single-sex education?
Well, the one I've already told that there is a significant association between single-sex schools and higher average scores in Korea, but also in England.
Okay.
But there are some more that I think that are worth considering. First, schools with better disciplinary climates tend to achieve higher scores in reading. And these are single-sex schools. So there is connection between discipline and learning.
Yeah.
And we know, as teachers, we know it.
Yeah.
We know it very well. And what is interesting also, that he says that there was a large study for US Education Department made of the entire research literature. So it was based only on literature. And it demonstrates, well, he says, I quote, small to moderately favorable outcomes for single-sex schools vis-a-vis coeducational schools. He also quotes the 2007 study in England, the Malkova, and it confirmed the greater single-sex effect for disadvantaged students. That is interesting.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth underlining that single-sex schools' advantage is larger among lower ability students.
Yeah, so there's a correlation between single-sex schools and lower ability. So boys or girls with problems of attention, pedagogical problems. No?
Yes, today I've seen in our school, because in our school we have also boys with Down syndrome. And I saw these boys among other boys, as they say, normative. Well, their behavior, they were happy to be there.
Yeah.
They were happy to be there, and it was, of course, it is good for both sides, we can say. For this, and it's interesting. So, interesting, and I think very important is that he asked principals and teachers in different schools. He made his own research, Riordan, and they perceived the main benefits of single-sex schooling were first decreased distractions to learning. So more concentrated on work than on relationship. We know that it is good relationship, but there are also bad relationships.
Well, yeah, and also that when you are studying, maybe that could be a distraction.
Yes, that and improved, and they agree that it improves single-sex schools, improves students' achievement, and and one more thing, I think, a new thing in our discussion now, but very well known to everyone who has the experience of single-sex schools, that you have the opportunity to address the unique learning styles and interests of boys and girls. And that I can confirm with all my heart, that what I saw in our school, that it really, a male teacher, he addresses, big boy addresses little boy, and they have common language, you can say.
Yeah, you see there a communication, no? That in single-sex schools, maybe that communication is granted because of how their curriculum, also the professors, also the students,
even the temperature. Temperature.
Yeah.
Well, Riordan does not write about it, but I love this example that one American journalist went to a private singles school, all-boys school, and she said, well, it was during winter, I think, or some cold time, and he said, for this money, because it was a very expensive school, for this money you can allow yourself some hitting, and the headmaster told, but yes, but they wouldn't learn if it was the temperatures would be higher. so because and it's evident that women, they prefer higher temperatures and men a little lower. For instance, there are many such.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
And there is one more thing about the studies, that compared to students in the coeducational schools, students in elementary and middle single-sex schools exhibited that I already told, so I won't tell more, but a greater sense of community. So it was one of the takeaways that we were talking about at the beginning of our talk, but it's also based on his research.
Yeah, so that idea of brotherhood or sisterhood, no? That idea of community, helping each other. So another aspect, Riordan, in his book, concludes that single-sex schools offer slight advantages, particularly for girls of all ages and socio-economically disadvantaged boys. So it is girls of all ages and then boys, but only for socio-economically disadvantaged. What do you think of this group? What do you think? Which of these two groups benefits the most of single-sex education?
You mean boys or girls?
Yeah. So we have, on the one hand, girls, all girls, and then on the other hand, boys, socio-economically disadvantaged. That's what Riordan says. Riordan says that. So which of the two groups do you think that could benefit the most of single sex? Maybe both, I don't know.
Yes, maybe both, but well, I won't be chauvinist, but I think that boys could get more from the schools, and we see. And it is also, I don't know if I don't think that he gives this data, but we know very well that there are less and less male students at the universities.
Yeah.
And it's not only in America or other countries. In Poland, it's the same. We have I think about 100 boys for 165 girls, women
at the university. Yeah.
So they are the group that loses on their educational way. They lose more. And well, there's no need of quoting other books as Sachs books or other, but we know well. We say that here in our school that in Poland there are mostly school for girls where the boys go.
And that's an idea that also here in the president of the American Institute for Boys and Men, Richard Reeves. He says that's the same idea. We are happy that girls are able to achieve university studies. However, we see that the boys and the men are being neglected by an educational system that maybe is not well designed for them. No, and that's something that is in relation with what you were saying.
Thank you for listening. Be different. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Spotify, and connect with us on Instagram and LinkedIn. Thanks for being here.